challenge is really making students think and think properly, so that they're thinking deeply about what they're writing and what they're talking about, and it is a way of making sure that they are able to explain key ideas in their learning and that they make complete sense to them.
It's looking at each child individually within your lesson and making sure that you have prepared something that each of them can access and be successful at.
Designing activities that put them slightly out of their comfort zone, so slightly above what's straightforward for them, to encourage them to kind of rise to that challenge and therefore make progress through doing something that's slightly more challenging than what would be easy and straightforward.
So stretch and challenge is important because it ensures, and it is a tool for making sure that all students make better than expected progress. It's important because it allows students to develop independence in their learning, develop resilience as well, and it also means they're able to articulate what they're thinking about, which is a really, really key skill.
Primarily, it's important for engagement. If a student feels that they're being challenged and stretched and they're thinking in their lessons rather than looking for a way to get out of doing something they're bored by, it's going to be better for you as the teacher. But also that they need to leave a lesson feeling like they have learned something new and that they are, experiencing something new in those classrooms. They have to have a sense of fulfilment, and if we want to promote a lifelong love of learning, then they have to have that urge to succeed for themselves.
Stretches and challenges is important because it allows pupils to progress at a faster pace. There's no point us getting pupils to do things that are straightforward and easy for them to do.
I wouldn't like easy work because I'd feel like we're getting a bit, patronised a bit on our ability and what we can actually achieve. So I think easy work is just pointless. I like getting difficult work from my teachers in Spanish, as it helps me achieve high grades, but also once we do the work and complete it, it gives us more of a sense of achievement.
Stretch and challenge is for all students. It's not just for your able, gifted and talented students. It's for every single student in your classroom. Every single student in your classroom deserves to be stretched and challenged in every lesson of the school day.
Students are able, through this really careful planning of activities, to deepen their thinking and to explore concepts that are maybe different to other students in the room, and that's really, really important because each child's got their own skill set and their own interests, and it's about relevance and making sure that what's happening in that lesson is relevant to them in some way.
It encourages pupils to enjoy the challenge, to enjoy doing things that stretch them, that challenge them, that make them think, that at first seem tough, but then as they start working through it, they realise that they can do it, and I think they get a great satisfaction from that. And it encourages them to be more independent learners in doing so, because they don't shy away from things that they find difficult.
Challenge in my lessons, for example, it might mean that students are sat in a mixed ability seating plan, they've got a talk partner that's of a different ability, they have opportunities in the lesson to talk to their talk partner in depth about various topics. They take part in group work that's well structured, that have specific and well explained, well defined roles. We talk about Bloom's taxonomy a lot, so they're able to structure deep thinking questions. It might also look like students choosing different tasks to do at different times. So you would walk into the classroom, for example, and students might have lots of different activities on the go because they've chosen their own start points. It might also look like students being peer observers, observing each other in their own learning. The other idea that I use quite a lot is solar taxonomy, where students have their own success criteria and are working through independently a series of activities.
In my lessons, students are grouped according to their ability. So they might have home groups where they are mixed ability, and then away groups where they might have to go to discuss things that are really focused around assessment criteria for a particular band. Students in my classroom are also becoming really, really good at formulating and answering their own questions. So they're questions for each other, they're questions of me actually. And in English what we're really working on is getting students to come up with their own assessment tasks. So they understand the criteria really, really well, and that enables them to be able to, again, branch off into areas that they're more interested in. I use lots of Bloom's taxonomy materials with them to help them, sentence starters and things, and the more you do that with them, the quicker they are to formulate those questions. I also reward for the best questions. That's not me saying that was a really great question. The students comment on the questions and say this is the best question because it does these things.
In this lesson I used De Bono's thinking hats in order to stretch and challenge the individuals. What I wanted to do was I wanted to scaffold them towards higher order thinking skills like synthesis and evaluation. And we did this by looking at an article that was about a man who had received the death penalty, but the reasons around that were quite controversial. Suzanne worked closely with some of the lower ability people on reading skills, so skimming and scanning the text for the appropriate information. So they had to not only understand the text, but they had to identify positives and negatives, which challenged kind of the middle ability students. And then at the higher end, they find their knowledge, their comprehension of text is quite good. So what we wanted them to do was kind of synthesise these positives and negatives. And we wanted them to start thinking of more creative solutions. So what could we have done? What could this man, how could this man have been treated differently? The thinking hats then formed the basis of a class discussion. So we kind of worked from the selecting key information up through positives and negatives to creative thinking, and pupils shared their findings individually. So they got to hear different people's ideas on the advantages and disadvantages.
Well, two activities I've used with really, really good effect is the quiz trade game and the high five game. These are activities where students are really forced to partake, and we make a game out of having to question absolutely everybody.
I find using Bloom's and De Bono's thinking hats as a useful kind of skeleton to build on when planning activities, when differentiating and planning activities that stretch and challenge perhaps a mixed ability class or a class that ranges in ability.
Well, if you want children to be thinking about their own learning styles, it's not something that's fashionable, but I mean the things that they like to do and the things that they like to, the ways they like to learn, you can actually just ask them. You can ask them with a questionnaire. So perhaps you could give it to them as homework, or it could be a really quick starter. And then what you do is you take in the questionnaires and you might group them according to a way that they prefer to learn. Don't be afraid to ask them, because you can go away and design tasks then that meet the needs of each student.